And so in Leviticus 8, we get the consecration of Aaron and his sons to serve as priests. And after the consecration, once we have the priests in place to actually do the sacrifices that I just learned all about, we get the actual sacrifices themselves, right? Where Moses says to Aaron, okay, come forward to the altar and sacrifice your offerings, right? And do all of the things, right? This is we're preparing for the appearance of God to the people. And the presence of the Lord appears to all the people in the entrance of the tabernacle. And fire comes from within the tabernacle and ignites the altar and consumes the sacrifices that are on it. And this is like the climax of everything that's happened since Israel arrived at Sinai, right? When they got, and here's this sort of sequence of things. First, God appeared on top of Sinai. They built the tabernacle, and then God comes down into the tabernacle. And finally, we get the beginning of proper sacrificial worship when the fire consumes the first offering. Now, a brief aside, is sacrifice about feeding the deity? Not explicitly, not explicitly, but you might note that in this moment, the fire does consume, literally the verb is eat, the sacrifices. So somewhere in the back of some mind somewhere, I think, is probably a notion of the sacrifices being food for the deity. But I don't know that that's not really how they're thinking anymore. After the revelation of the deity and after the beginning of sacrifice proper, the first thing that happens is transgression, the deaths of Aaron's two eldest sons, Nadav and Avihu. And this famous little episode where they offer, strange fire. They put incense in their fire pans and they bring it before God, and fire comes forth from the Lord, just like it did a second ago to consume the sacrifices. But in this case, it consumes them, right? Consumes Aaron's sons. What did they actually do wrong here? Is, I think, a question that most people have upon reading this. But I would posit that the better question is actually, what did they do right? Let's see. They prepared an incense offering with their own kindling when no incense offering was ordered. We already learned, right? Here's when you bring sacrifices. There's no place for just bring an incense offering for funsies. So they brought an unprescribed, undesired sacrifice. If a sacrifice is prescribed, it's legitimate. Otherwise, it's what we would call sacrilege. Not only did they go too far in their attempt at piety, right? God intended, as we saw a chapter ago, that the divine fire would light sacrifices. And here they are lighting the fire themselves, taking on the divine prerogative. And they're doing this all on their own behalf, when we should be clear that the priestly role is one of public service in ancient Israel. It's public, so everything that priest does is on behalf of the community. And here are Nadav and Avihu sort of taking advantage of their roles as close mediators of the divine, but not for private gain, rather than for public good. What's the basic issue here with the Nadav and Avihu story? It's that ritual has to be followed precisely. I mean, we just got all of these detailed rules. And also it's a reminder that ritual crimes are serious stuff. This is not just technicalities. What looks like mind-numbing detail to us is in fact incredibly important. The divine presence in the tabernacle depends upon proper worship. And the first thing we do is learn that lesson in this incredibly dramatic way.